Okay, so picture the Oval Office for a second.
Mm.
When you think about the presidency, I mean, any presidency, you sort of have this image of a grand strategist.
The
Like,
philosopher king, the steady hand.
exactly. Someone playing this, high-stakes, three-dimensional chess game, thinking 12 moves ahead. It's all very calculated.
That's the archetype.
For sure. What if that's the wrong game? What if the person in charge isn't playing chess at all? What if they're, I don't know, playing pinball?
Pinball. Yeah.
Just smashing the flippers, keeping that silver ball alive, reacting to the noise, chasing the lights. No plan. Just keeping the ball from draining.
That is a vivid and kind of terrifying metaphor.
It is, isn't it?
And it's really the heart of the deep dive we're doing today. We're looking at a series of articles by an author named John Hogan.
Right.
And he paints this very specific picture of what this pinball presidency looks like and maybe more importantly, where he thinks it could lead.
And we're not just talking about governing style. We're talking about, what Hogan lays out is basically a roadmap to a constitutional crisis.
It is. We've got 3 pieces from him. One is called Who Is He? Another is G.K. Chesterton Speaks to Conservatives. And the third is this really chilling, speculative timeline.
Headlines of how it could happen. Yeah.
And just to set the stakes here for you, Hogan isn't writing this as fiction. He's looking at Donald Trump's leadership style, the erosion of democratic norms, these fences, as he calls them, and he projects a scenario where the entire American experiment just hits a brick wall by 2029.
It's really heavy stuff. We start with these big ideas, pinball and fences, but then it gets very specific with dates, the military, the Constitution.
Yep.
So let's unpack it. Let's start with Hogan's first piece, Who Is He? It's from early 2026.
Right. And this is crucial because it tackles that idea you hear so much, especially from supporters.
The 4D chess argument.
Exactly. That he's a master strategist and the media just can't see the plan.
And what does Hogan say to that?
He says, essentially, stop looking for the chessboard.
Huh.
He argues Trump is not a strategist. He calls him a huckster from Queens who's found himself in the most powerful office on earth. And in Hogan's view, his mind operates like a global pinball machine. The only goal is to keep the ball moving.
So it's all reactive.
Completely. It's about the noise, the score, the flashing lights. Hogan even lists the sounds the machine screams out.
Yeah, these contradictions. One day it's tariffs up, the next
The tariffs down, blame Biden, blame Biden, blame Biden.
I love the Greenland example. Invade Greenland.
Okay.
And then, like, a day later, buy Greenland.
It's absurd. Drug king pardoned, then drug king kidnapped. It keeps everyone off balance.
But this is where I kind of get stuck.
Yeah.
Because normally chaos is just seen as bad management, right? If your administration is constantly on fire, that's a sign you're failing. But Hogan seems to be saying this chaos, it's not a bug, it's a feature.
That is the aha moment of the piece. He says there's a strange kind of genius to it. He calls it a strategy to overwhelm, distract, and dominate.
The chaos is the point.
Think about it. If you flood the zone with noise, with contradictions, with spectacle, nobody can focus.
The media can't keep up.
The opposition can't form a coherent argument because the target is always moving and the public just gets exhausted. You numb them.
You numb them to the things that matter, but you keep the base, the crowd around the machine, totally captivated by the show.
Right. But Hogan's verdict is pretty stark. He says, while the cronies enjoy the ride for civility and democracy, this signals game over.
And that game over brings us to the second article. G.K. Chesterton Speaks to Conservatives.
Yeah.
Now, I have to be honest, I did not expect a deep dive on modern politics to suddenly pivot to an English writer from the early 1900s.
It does feel like a bit of a left turn, doesn't it? But it's the philosophical foundation for everything else. He brings up the parable of Chesterton's fence.
Okay, walk us through that one.
The idea is simple. You're walking in a field and you see a fence that seems to be in the way. It serves no obvious purpose. A reformer, as Chesterton calls them, sees it and says, I don't see a use for this. Let's take it down.
Which, sounds pretty reasonable. If it's useless, get rid of it.
But the true conservative says, hold on. Don't take it down until you understand why it was put there in the first place.
So don't tear down a wall until you know what it was holding back.
Exactly. These norms, traditions, a sense of decorum, they aren't just old habits. They are fences. And Hogan applies this directly to presidential decorum.
And that's the fence Trump is tearing down, in his view.
Yes. That fence exists to inhibit vulgar insults, to stop a president from calling people guilty before they're even accused. These aren't just manners, they are safeguards against autocracy.
But Hogan points out this huge irony. The people cheering for the fence to come down are the ones calling themselves conservatives.
Conservatives in name only is the phrase he uses. He says they've abandoned this core conservative wisdom because the fence gets in the way of their pinball wizard.
They want the spectacle more than the safety.
And Hogan's warning is that tearing it down will hurt the nation more than it will satisfy the ego of one delusional man. Because once you remove the norms of how a president should act, you remove the barriers to what a president can do.
And that is the perfect, chilling setup for the third article.
Yeah.
Because the first two pieces are the theory, the style, the philosophy. This third one is the practice. This is where Hogan stops being a philosopher and starts predicting headlines.
This is headlines of how it could happen.
It's a speculative timeline. It reads like a movie script.
Yeah.
And the scariest part for me wasn't the ending. It was how mundane the beginning feels.
It starts slowly. August 11, 2025, the headline. Trump orders federal takeover of D.C. police.
And the justification is a crime emergency.
Right. And this matters because it's a test. If he can assert federal control over local law enforcement in D.C., where else can he do it? It blurs a really important line.
It's the first fence post getting yanked out. Then we jump to the midterms, November 2026.
Republicans cement control of Congress. This is the enabler. Hogan predicts they keep majorities in both the House and Senate.
So there's no legislative check? No one to say no?
No one.
Okay, but 2027, this is where I really felt my stomach drop. Because this is where Hogan brings in the military. And you keep thinking, this can't happen. But the logic he lays out is, it's terrifyingly plausible.
It starts September 12, 2027. Trump remakes Joint Chiefs of Staff with unprecedented shakeup.
The Joint Chiefs are supposed to be, sacred ground, apolitical. Can a president just fire them all?
Technically, yes. With Senate confirmation, which he has, he can install whoever he wants. Hogan predicts a purge, the old guard is out, loyalists are in. Confirmed on party line votes.
And it's not just the generals, it's the troops themselves. The headline for November 2027.
Army recruitment soars past expectations.
Which, on its face, sounds like a good thing.
Until you read the fine print.
Yeah. Internal survey reveals majority of new enlistees identify as MAGA-J supporters. Hogan is describing a demographic shift inside the armed forces.
He's suggesting the military itself is becoming a partisan organization from the bottom up.
And then comes this detail in February 2028. This is what really connects the dots for me. Trump approves the use of MAGA insignia on all military uniforms.
Just stop and think about that for a second. The military swears an oath to the Constitution, not a party, not a person.
Right.
But if you encourage them to wear the political logo of the sitting president on their uniform, you are fundamentally rewiring their loyalty.
You're telling them they aren't soldiers for America, they're soldiers for him.
Exactly. You're tearing down the biggest fence of all, the one between state power and the leader's personal politics.
And all of this, the D.C. police, the loyalist generals, the partisan soldiers, it's all just setting the stage for the 2028 election.
November 6, 2028. Hogan describes this campaign just fueled by AI bots and conspiracy theories. The pinball machine is completely out of control.
And the result? Democrat Shapiro wins, but it's razor thin.
Exactly. 270 electoral votes, the closest possible margin, and then the norms just collapse.
Nobody accepts the loss.
J.D. Vance refuses to concede. He urges Congress to challenge Pennsylvania's electoral votes.
And they use a specific legal tool to do it.
The Electoral Count Reform Act, which is so ironic because that law was passed to prevent another January 6th.
But they weaponize it.
They weaponize the very thing meant to save democracy in order to strangle it.
So we get into early 2029, and there's no transition happening.
None. On January 12, Congress establishes a review commission. But here's the pinball move. Trump unilaterally declares he's staying in office pending the outcome.
He just refuses to leave.
He says it's for the safety of the nation. He's caught the ball, and he's not letting it go.
The commission comes back in March, confirms Shapiro won, no fraud. But the GOP leaders just reject the findings. We're at a complete constitutional deadlock.
And this brings us to the climax. April 2029. The country is holding its breath. Everything's broken.
April 1st. Chief Justice Roberts swears in Shapiro. Legally, he's the president. He's the commander-in-chief.
But Trump is still in the White House.
You have two presidents. One with the law on his side, one with the building.
And this is where that depoliticization of the military, all that groundwork from 2027 finally pays off.
April 2nd. Shapiro orders the army to remove the trespasser, to seize the White House.
Yeah, and the Joint Chiefs refuse.
They refuse the order.
They refuse. They cite Trump as commander-in-chief. Remember, these are his guys. And the troops. They're the ones wearing Magier insignia.
Their loyalty has been shifted.
It has. They're not looking at the Constitution anymore. They're looking at the patch on their arm.
That's it. That's the moment democracy ends in this scenario, isn't it? When the military ignores the elected president.
It is. Because laws are just words if the people with the guns don't follow them. The very next day, April 3rd, Trump issues an executive order creating a federal election agency, and he declares he will stay in office until 2033.
To oversee and control all future elections.
The game has stopped. The ball isn't bouncing anymore. He's holding it.
Wow. I mean, just hearing it laid out like that, it's sickening. But you can see the thread. You see how the pinball wizard style paves the way for the tearing down of Chesterton's fence.
That's Hogan's entire point. We often dismiss the daily chaos as just noise, you know? We laugh at the tweets, the rallies, but he's saying the chaos is the smoke screen. While we're all watching the flippers, the fences are being cut.
And the most important fence of all being the one around the military.
Absolutely, because if the military stays apolitical, if they refuse to wear the insignia, if the Joint Chiefs aren't purged, the whole scenario falls apart.
The Army follows the Constitution, and Shapiro takes office.
But because that fence was torn down piece by piece back in 2027, the whole structure collapses when it's tested.
So, why does this matter for you, listening right now? I mean, we're not in 2029.
It matters because it shows how fragile our institutions really are. We think of democracy as this solid rock, but Hogan shows us it's actually just a series of agreements, of norms, of fences. It's a shared belief.
And if you stop believing in the fences, the rock just crumbles. It makes you watch the news differently. When you see a norm being broken, it's not just politics. It's a structural weakness being introduced. It's a fence post being pulled out of the ground.
Yeah.
So we'll leave you with this thought. Hogan describes this leader who plays the presidency like a pinball machine, just smashing away for the highest score. But if we let the fence of tradition and decorum get torn down to keep the game exciting, what happens when the machine finally tilts for good? Is there anyone left who can reset the game?
Or does the game just end?
A chilling thought for the week. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.